Hey, what's going on, motivators? It's Corporal Russo here. So, yeah, I know it's been quite a while since I've been on YouTube lately. I mean, I don't even know if anybody really cares at this point because it feels like my channel is just kind of slowly fading away. But again, it's my fault more than anything else. But I'm going to be talking about a community post I posted up. If you haven't seen it, just go see it. I'm going to give a little more detail to that. So, yeah, it has not been a good while. So, long story short, I cannot re-enlist into the United States military under any branch unless something pops off here. Like, we go to war with somebody or something happens. But, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, this is something I think I may have touched on a little bit more, but there is a reason why I couldn't re-enlist or I can't re-enlist and why this is hitting me so hard. So we're gonna try to go through this, in detail, but a little quick because I know you guys probably have better things to do. But here's basically what happened. Back in 2014, August 11th, the night of August 11th, going to August 12th, back in 2014, I was living in Alexandria, Virginia. And I had just gotten back from the gym, and when I got home to my apartment, my brother, who you guys have seen in other videos, was there, smoking weed, and he said that our roommate was at the hospital. I didn't know, and that she needed a ride. So that wasn't really a big deal. However, the vehicle we had was our father's. He wasn't, around. He said we can use it, but at the same time, the tags were bad, so it's like we couldn't necessarily drive it around. But this, I consider it an emergency because, a 4-month pregnant woman who put a roof over our heads, needed help. So I figured if I got pulled, I could explain the situation. But I get there, she's with a friend, I take her friend back, but before that we get her food because, who's going to deny a pregnant woman food? Drop him off, and a cop starts tailing us because I guess, we had stopped in the middle of the street, not like a busy highway, it's like a small little area. Wasn't even busy at all, just to let him out. But I guess he wanted to see what was up. He saw the tags are bad, pulls us over. I already know where this is going, so he asked me if I knew why I was pulled over, and I said, yeah, the tags are bad. And he says, well, why are you driving? And I explained the situation, that it's not my car, it's my father's. This is my roommate. She's 4 months pregnant. She was in the hospital for chest and abdominal pain, and she even suffered from asthma. So again, like, I was just being a good Samaritan and giving my friend a lift. She needed help. I even showed him the paperwork from the hospital she had, and he didn't care. And I explained to him that we did not have enough money for a cab for 2 people. So he tried to force the door open, and I said, hey, can you not do that? He's just like, well, we need you to step out of the car real quick, because he told me that the car had to be towed because of the tags being bad. But then he had a question about the lights on the car. His name was the officer in question was named Jonathan, John Bratelli, and he had his partner there. His name was Alexander Kent Van Scoyoc. It's a weird fucking name. And they were questioning the lights my dad had put on his car, and I told him that we had it done by a professional who owns a shop, one town over, who advertises this for other vehicles. They tried to tell me it's illegal, and I explained to him, no, we had this done by a professional who does this with other vehicles. So how can he do this and not risk losing his license or his business to do this? So one of the cops, Van Scoyoc, said something no cop should ever said, and he said, and I quote, well, I don't know what the law says. That's what he said. No cop should ever say that, because you discredit yourself so bad and every other cop around you in that area and in the city for that matter. And he discredited Bratelli because Bratelli didn't even try to correct him. And I said to him, well, how are you going to tell me something's illegal when you don't even know how it's illegal? So he walked away after that, and Bratelli kept questioning me about the lights, asked me to turn them on. I told him they don't work, we can't turn them on. But then I see Van Scoyoc come out of nowhere with some gloves, and I see him put the gloves on, and I say to myself, he's not about to open my door, is he? And he did, and I shouted at him to, it was just like a hey. And they try to tell me it's an inventory search, which I knew was BS. And what an inventory search is, for those of you who don't know, it's when a car gets towed into a police impound. They take inventory of items in the car, whether it be, maybe some loose change, some CDs, whatever. That way they can avoid, being for them to be saying, hey, that way they can avoid being accused of thievery, which I don't even know you could trust that for the most part. But I told him he couldn't do that because it was still on the street, it wasn't impounded yet. And we had a little back and forth about this, and he told me to go stand over to the side, which I did with my roommate, which I didn't even know she had gotten out of the car. So I'm just standing there looking at him doing this, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is bullshit. And then I hear out of nowhere a third cop. His name is Brandon Smith, which, by the way, here's what 2 of the 3 cops look like. And disclaimer, I'm showing you the cops and giving them names, not because I want people to go after them. Please, don't go after these guys. Maybe somebody's out there, you can protest against them. Don't go after them. Don't try to harm them. This was, 9 years ago. Not a whole lot I can do on my end. But I just wanted to give anybody in the Alexandria area who may be watching this a heads up of who to look out for, because these guys, they're not good people. And I had to find that out the hard way. So this cop, Brandon Smith, starts, yelling and cursing at me to sit the fuck down. And I told him I didn't want to do that. And he says, you need to shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down. I said to him, dude, I'm not required to sit down. I'm just standing here. I wasn't intervening or, doing anything to the other cops. And he said, you either sit down, I'm going to make you sit down. And I tried to explain to him, dude, I'm not being a threat right now. You're being the threat. You're being, the aggressive one here. There's no obligation for me to sit down. If I want to stand, I would like to stand, okay? I'm not interrupting those guys, what they're doing, or anything. And I asked him politely to please just stop, yelling at us. And then he walks over. I'm thinking maybe he just gets in my face, but he actually grabs me by both of my wrists, and, I try to shake out of it. And then the other 2 cops jumped on me. Bertelli tried to get me into a rear chokehold. Like, I could feel him trying to push my head back so he can get underneath my neck. But, thanks to this Marine Corps training here, I tucked my neck as tight as I could so he couldn't get underneath it. And, they wrestled me for like 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know how long it seems. It seems like fucking forever. And then I feel one of them take my thumb and try to, like, bend it, which caused me to, like, it hurt. And it caused me to let go. And then they take my face and they shove it into a steel pole, like one of those giant street signs says, you're coming into this city, get off this exit, one of those. So it was a big steel pole. So my left side of my face got, shoved into it, and then they rolled my ear onto the pole and pressed into it. So if anybody's had their ear, that hard part, pushed in on or hit, it hurts. And at this point, they put cuffs on me, and it's just like, what the hell is going on? This is a fucking fiasco. And I keep asking him, what the hell did I do? Like, what did I do that was wrong? No one wanted to answer. And, my roommate, she called up her friend that we just dropped off because he lived like a little bit down where you could walk. Then again, Brandon Smith comes out of nowhere, telling her, screaming at her, get the fuck off the phone, get the fuck off the phone. Just screaming at her for no reason. Like, what? Like, this guy's a fucking goon. And, before he got there, our roommate said, can I get my purse? Because it had her stuff in it, and Brandon Smith just came out of nowhere, and, he stiffed on her. He hit her in the shoulder like this, and, that pissed her off. And, I'm just screaming at her, dude, she's fucking pregnant. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't give a shit. She needs to stand the fuck back. It's like, what the fuck kind of guy is this? And, her friend gets there. He's trying to figure out what's going on. At this point, I'm just fucking livid. I'm just screaming at everybody. I'm not threatening anybody, at all. But, I am being a little belligerent, but no threats. Nothing that will make anybody feel in fear of their life. So, their sergeant finally shows up. His name is Sergeant Dunkwoo. And, we're trying to explain to him what the hell happened, but it seems like nobody cares. Like, nobody's identifying themselves. Nobody's saying any badge numbers. So, it's just like, how do we make a complaint? And they searched that car. It's a 2011 blood red Camaro, by the way. So, not a whole lot of space. But they searched that car for over an hour. 2 cops. 2. And, Sergeant Duncan said, that my roommate and her friend were free to go, but she wanted, everybody's badge numbers and his, and he didn't give it at all. The only reason I know his name was Duncan because I saw his name, but he was not identifying himself, so that was an issue. So my roommate and her friend, they walk away. About another 10 minutes go by. Bertelli says, and he claims, that they found bags of cocaine in the center console. Which is weird because, if that's like the first place you check in a car, and it took you well over an hour, you and another person, to poke your head in and say, hey, there's bags of cocaine here. Like it was just fucking weird. And I don't do cocaine. My brother doesn't do cocaine. For anybody who knows my brother, if you're watching this, he smokes weed. But I'm not gonna hide it. He loves his weed. So it's just weird that they found cocaine. I'm thinking to myself, they fucking planted that shit. And it sucks because I got arrested and I went to jail. I spent 2 days in jail before my boss bailed me out. And at this point I'm just livid because I'm asking my brother, who did you have in the car? And he said nobody. So I'm thinking that these cops planted those drugs. And so fast forward a little bit, I get in touch with a lawyer. His name's Justin Daniel. He's an okay guy, but he told me he was gonna need $1,500. I'm like, shit, because here's a big thing. We were getting paid $7.25 an hour and living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and the rent was about between $1,100 and $1,200 a month. So that was a bit of a struggle to try scrounge up whatever I could, borrow to whoever I can borrow from. And my case got continued twice. One from the prosecutor, one from my lawyer. And I finally was able to come up with the $1,500 for my lawyer to say, okay, I'm gonna represent him or show up to this particular court date. But here's the thing: on the actual court date for my sentencing, my lawyer says to me, "Hey, I'm gonna need, my retainer." He showed up and he just came out of nowhere with like, "My retainer's $5,000." Like, what are you talking about? I gave you the $1,500. He said, "No, that was for me to just show up and say, hey, I'm his lawyer. That's just for me to show up. I need $5,000 for the actual sentencing case." I'm like, what the, like $5,000, dude? We get paid minimum wage in an overpriced, hand-me-down apartment. And he's just like, well, you're in military. Do you have any benefits? I'm like, dude, I have all my limbs, and I don't suffer from any injuries, so no, I don't get any benefits. And he said, well, a new prosecutor is coming in, and this is the plea offer. So they were trying to charge me with two things. One was, a concealed weapons charge, which they claimed they found a collapsible baton underneath a towel, which, again, that's just really weird. That it was underneath a towel that was never even, like, there was no fucking towel in that car. I know it. And then they're trying to get me with, felony possession of cocaine. And I saw the report, and they said that the amount of cocaine was 0.001. That is a sneeze. You could sneeze and there would be more. So this is just like residual evidence that they were talking about, but they considered it enough to charge me. And so they would drop the concealed weapons charge and amend the felony charge to a misdemeanor of paraphernalia. And I told my lawyer, dude, this might affect my ability to go back into the military. And he tried to, him and the prosecutor both assured me, like the prosecutor was there too, the new one, who was a lot cooler than the original guy, because they were trying to get me originally with like a plea deal that would just say, yes, I'm a felon, yes, I'm going to go to drug courses. I wasn't having any of that. But they said it shouldn't because it's a misdemeanor, not a felony. So I very, very reluctantly took the no contest plea. And with that, they dropped the weapons charge. They amended the, felony charge to a misdemeanor charge. I didn't spend any time in jail. They gave me time served. And just be on unsupervised probation for 1 year, which was, fucking easy. But, I just hate the fact that these cops got away with something. They got away with committing a crime against two non-combative individuals and possibly planting drugs in that car. Now, fast forward just, a few months later, my brother told me that, finally said to me, hey man, look, I had some friends in the car with me beforehand, and they may have left those bags in there. And I said to him, "Why the fuck didn't you say anything beforehand? We could have brought that to the prosecutor, or not the prosecutor, our lawyer." And he just said, "Well, I didn't want to be like a snitch, and they're my friends." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm your brother. You should have said something." So I was very livid with my brother, for a while. And that this probably could have been avoided if he would have just came out and said, "Hey, I know whose those are. They're not his." It might have changed stuff. But, and what really sucks is it was hard for me to get a decent job for a while. I was stuck working at this car wash, for 5 years. About 5 years. And, just moving around, I was only getting basic jobs. I couldn't get a banking job. I couldn't get something just because I had this on my record. And now let's bring it to about 2019, 2020. I figured, let me get back into the military now. This isn't working. So I had to get all my paperwork, copies all my stuff. And I was working with a recruiter in Long Island, which was where I was originally recruited from. And they were willing to work with me. It was a little bit of back and forth, but then I decided, let me work with one of the local recruiters. That kind of pissed them off a little bit, the guys up in New York. But, working with these guys, I'm getting into shape, I'm losing weight. I wanted to go Army Ranger, because I was behind a desk in the Marine Corps. I wanted to do something more exciting. And then what wound up happening is in 2021, they did my fingerprints, and the recruiter says, "No, you're listed here as a felon." And I said to him, No, I'm not a felon. I have 2 concealed carry permits. I own a shit ton of guns. And this is all after this incident in 2014. And he said, "Well, the FBI keeps saying, you're a felon." And he said, like, "Well, if anything, you just go to college." I was like, "Dude, college isn't for everybody. Have you seen college campuses nowadays?" Sorry, it's just annoying to hear all this. So, that put me in a cycle of, emotions, because I was just like, where the hell is he getting this from? And then, I talked to the recruiters in Long Island, and they were a little hesitant at first, but they still worked with me. And we're talking, just keeping them up to date about my health and all that good stuff. And it seemed very positive, especially when they said that they wanted to actually see me, like physically see me, not just talk to me over the phone. So that gave me some hope. And I did manage to get my stuff expunged, thank God. But the military doesn't care. The military will always look at the original charge regardless of the expungement. And as it turns out, I had to make sure of that, and I had to talk to this recruiter, after, working out, going to the gym, doing these weighted, hikes with that vest you guys may have seen in one of my videos. And then they're just like, "Well, it might as well just be a waste of time." And I'm just like, "Dude, you guys gave me hope. You kept telling me, oh yeah, let's make a plan to, meet up," knowing I was in a completely different state. So I almost wasted a plane ticket going up there. And they could have just told me no this whole time. So now it just feels like all this time has been wasted. All these character letters I've gotten from veteran Marines who know me, who work with me, from family friends who have seen me throughout the years, know that I'm not a felon, that I'm not a criminal, I'm not a drug user. I barely drink. Like my last sip of alcohol was probably 3 or 4 years ago. This is my drink. It's Diet fucking Pepsi. I know I'm not a bad guy. But I think it's ridiculous that somebody out there who has similar charges with me can still get in. But apparently the recruiter was just like, "Oh, there's a new, order or whatever is out there that basically says, veteran Marines who took a plea deal, yada, 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 even if it's just a misdemeanor, can enlist." I'm like, where does it say that? No one has ever gotten back to me on that as well. Not the recruiters here in North Carolina and the recruiters in Long Island. No one has sent me anything. I couldn't even get into the National Guard. That's how fucked up the situation is. So after hearing all that, I was just so fucking depressed. Not suicidal. I don't think I'm ever going to commit suicide. Not to jinx myself, but I've never felt the urge to do that. But just a train of emotions, just being more angry than anything else because somebody else fucked me over. And I'm pretty sure any of you watching this have felt that way, or have had that happen to you, where somebody, maybe a friend or a family member, fucked you over or something. It'd be like being a passenger in the car with 3 other people, 4 people, you and 3 friends, and let's say they get, like in my situation, you get pulled over and the driver has stuff on him, or there just happens to be something in the car, you can get charged too, even though it's not yours. Like guilty by association thing. But it's just like, I know two Marines. I know one who was writing a letter for me. I'm gonna give you 2 of their stories here. Okay, I actually worked with him, and he got kicked out of the Marine Corps because his roommate had spice in his room. And for those of you who remember spice, maybe they still have it at stores. I don't know. Again, I don't smoke, but when it came out at the time, there's a big base order back in the Marine Corps that says no, absolutely not. It's not legal in the Marine Corps. If you're a Marine, if your name tape says U.S. Marine followed by your last name, you cannot smoke this stuff. And his roommate actually had some in the room, and he got caught with it. And he even wrote a letter saying, look, it's mine, not his. But despite this, the general of the base at the time was like, no, anybody involved with this is given the boot. So just because he was his roommate, he got kicked out of the Marine Corps too. Like, imagine that you just got into the Marine Corps, you're not even 6 months in, and you get kicked out because of someone else. And then there's a story of a staff sergeant I knew. He had been in for 13 years. He's about to pick up gunnery sergeant. However, during a 96 party, and for those of you who don't know what a 96 is, a 96 is a holiday thing. So it's like 96 hours, 4 days to yourself to do whatever, for the most part. They were having, him and his wife were enjoying, a cookout, the day before, the 96 ended. People brought up types of food, chicken, steaks, burgers, and his brother-in-law had brought in, a big tray of brownies. So you probably see where this is going. And, he had done, quite a bit of drinking. He starts eating these brownies like, they're M&Ms. And day after the 96 ends, this is very common, certain commands, or maybe all commands, will do a random drug test, a urinalysis. So he goes in there, pisses in a cup, and it comes back positive for, whatever the fuck's in marijuana. And he tries to tell him, look, I didn't smoke anything over the weekend, And they're like, well, what is it? He's like, I don't know. So, he starts thinking about it. He calls his wife, and, he's just like, hey, did, your brother put anything in those brownies? She says she don't know. She'll ask him. She asked him. It turns out he had, spiked the brownies with marijuana. And I know some of you are probably like, how did you not taste it? Again, Marines, we do our fair share of drinking to the point where we can eat the grossest thing and not realize it's gross. So more than likely, with the combination of alcohol, other food, and the brownies, you probably didn't even realize, the taste at the time. So he wound up getting, kicked out as well. And I'm guaranteeing you, he has not talked to his brother-in-law since. So that's where I'm kind of at right now. I was depressed for a while, which is why I haven't bothered making videos. Like, for a long time, I didn't care about anything. Like, I was just so angry at the world. I was angry at my brother. It's just bullshit. I didn't care about YouTube. I didn't care if I lost subscribers or not. I didn't care about anything. This damn camera is collecting dust. And I know that there are people there who are supporting me, saying, hey man, it's not the end of the world. But just put yourself in my boots for a minute. My whole thing, especially with YouTube, Corporal Russo, that's always been a thing of mine. A Marine veteran. Like, I love the fact that people know I'm a Marine. When I was first doing YouTube and I did my first Ruby reaction, a lot of people were surprised to see that Marines like anime. Like, yes, we're still people. We're still humans. We love anime. We love comics. We love movies. We love video games. There are guys who have been serving in the Marine Corps for 20 plus years and they're fucking nerds. Like, you guys would have to experience this to see what I'm talking about. But to have a part of my identity feel like it was just stripped away. Like, I can never go back unless something happens in the world where I'm still young enough to, re-enlist. And it just feels like the only part of the Marine Corps I have left with me now is, my military ID, that they let me keep. Thank you for that. And this. Like, this is really all I got going for me now with the Marine Corps. It's just, now I'm just a veteran who got fucked over. And I don't know how many other people have gone through something like this, But the future for me isn't so bleak. I'm in a better place now where I was when I first found out about this shit. I tried going to the gym, but, my anger, I couldn't even get a full set in of anything. My mind was just fucking scattered. But I started a new job. It's 12-hour shifts, 2 days on and every other weekend. So, for example, Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, then I'll work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But going to next week, it's reversed. So every other week, I get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. And it's good. It's better money than when I was working at Wendy's. And believe it or not, an old Marine buddy of mine got in contact with me when I first asked him about writing a character letter. This is before I got the bad news. He offered me a job out in Texas, working with this place called Ameritex Pipe. And they pay really good, and I probably should have just hopped on this sooner, because right now they're on a hiring freeze. But for now, I'm just going to work, save up, and then, once they start hiring again, I'm going to move out to Texas. I don't know what part of Texas, because, they have 3 different locations, so I don't know where I'm going to be, but it's a heads up. It's a good start, and since it's Texas, maybe I can get a job doing law enforcement. And I know being a cop may not be may not be good at the moment, especially with all the scrutiny with police officers and my story I just gave. But it's still an option. I could do something with Border Patrol. I have options. I'm just gonna have to, face that fact that I do have options, and that it is not the end of the world, and that I just need to, take a deep breath and, as Montium would say, keep moving forward. And with that being said, I'm also considering changing the name of the YouTube channel, because I think I've kind of held on to Corporal Russo, to the Marine Corps, long enough. So long as remember I'm a Marine in here, I think that's important. There is one name I'm thinking about. I'm not going to say it yet because I don't want anybody taking this name, because I looked all over YouTube. No one has this name yet. So we'll just go from there. But yeah, that's really much it. Thank you guys, for the support throughout all this time, especially with my absence on YouTube. Again, I don't know if anybody even really cares anymore, but at least it's something. It's something, especially to one person in particular. I hate just nitpicking at people who support the channel, but Shadow Rider 329. I think you're definitely my biggest supporter, dude. I think hopefully one day we'll meet. Maybe we'll meet, by accident or at RTX, or maybe we'll just be like, hey man, you want to fucking meet for once? But anyway, guys, thanks for everything. Thanks you for listening to my story. And for anybody out there going through depression, it's free. It doesn't cost anything to talk. Hugs are free. Hug someone who's close to you. Let them know. Don't be afraid to talk. And that's always been a thing of mine, is just being actually afraid to talk about it to people. But don't be afraid to talk, because, we're all human. We all go through the motions, and we all go through similar shit. So, again, thank you guys. Now you understand why it's been a while since I've shown my face on the screen here. And, yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm going to try to do a video, try to keep the channel up and running. But until then, thanks again, and you guys take it easy, alright? Later.